Welcome back to Superman Comic a Day, as I have had my COVID booster. Today we're going to cover Superman number 6, the first story, Lois Lane Murder Suspect. And don't let the intriguing title fool you. It's pretty boring and a nothing story. Nothing really happens, and there's not really a lot to talk about. It's funny how these Superman stories, even though there's 4 of them in each Superman comic, generally aren't very interesting to talk about. Almost like Jerry Siegel is doing too many Superman stories. Go figure. Lois Lane is grabbed. She seems to be chloroformed in the process. We then go over to Clark, who is investigating the murder of a jewel collector. Very rich jewel collector. With him is another reporter named Scoop, who seems to be trying to just sabotage Clark at every aspect and pulling kind of pranks on him. He's a very annoying character. I'm glad he doesn't return. And Officer Casey. This is the first appearance of Officer Casey, who is a recurring character in the Superman books, and at this time was a much bigger character. He sort of gets forgotten about and people bring him back, but he never gets put into other Superman media. Officer Casey's just a officer who doesn't like Superman and has kind of a grudge against him for no apparent reason. One of the other officers finds Lois Lane knocked out in the other room and find her fingerprints everywhere, and she's very close to the dead body, so they assume she's the murder suspect. They take her to jail, but on the way, Clark becomes Superman, bright blue costume, red cape, saves her. Superman then, after hiding her out, which I'm pretty sure they're going to frown upon, I mean, even if you prove she's innocent, she still kind of escaped from police custody, which is a law that was broken. Maybe they'll just let her off and they'll call it even for the whole taking her in for murder thing. Clark then returns to the crime scene to investigate. The police try to shoot at him, which is a high escalation of tension there for, getting into a murder scene. So they try to shoot him. He catches the bullets. So it's a scene we've seen, feels like 100 times now, but couldn't be more than 15 or 20, where they shoot at him and they're flabbergasted that he's able to withstand the bullets. Here he catches them. So at that point, the cops just let him investigate because there's nothing they can do to him. Can't make him go out. They can call as many people as they want. They don't really want the trouble. So Superman investigates and he finds 3 potential suspects. And then he goes out and gets them. This is like a 2-page thing where he just kind of grabs a dude and says, yeah, you're coming with me. One of them is on an airplane, so he goes out seemingly flying. He's not flying quite yet, but it's never made quite clear when Superman starts flying in the comic. He just starts flying. It's not like he can fly, it's like a big deal. No, it's just he starts flying. He's able to fly in the radio show first. Then that's brought over to the comic, which I think is why it never gets a big, look, he can fly now moment. So I'm keeping my eye out for that. He seemingly flies here, but it never quite says fly. But he grabs a guy out of an airplane and he has 3 suspects. He brings them over to the police investigation and the crime scene where the whole murder mystery aspect of this story utterly falls flat because Superman discovers that the clock on the mantelpiece has a camera in it set to go off if a gunshot went off. So there is a photo evidence already because we spent, I don't know, more than half this comic setting something up, yet nothing has really happened. But we're short on time, so guess that happens. It's the architect of the building, which makes the most sense if he was able to get in and out, sneak in, put Lois on trial, essentially. Though, why did he use Lois? Well, she's important to the Superman comics. That's why. But in-world reason, there is none. Just because she's someone Superman would actively try to save. I mean, there's logic in that. No logic in the universe, but there's logic in that. And the architect is arrested, first trying to shoot Superman, which doesn't work. So we see a lot of people try to shoot Superman. And Lois is free to go and everything's saved. Yeah, like a nothing story. Actually, while I'm describing it, I'm remembering more and more of it and still think, that's not worth mentioning because nothing quite happened in it. We got Sergeant Casey. There was no structure to talk about. I can barely figure out where the halfway point was. I keep thinking that, no, there had to be more because how did they run out of time with the murder mystery? But no, they just run out of time with the murder mystery doing nothing. A lot of time spent on Superman catching bullets and the cops just going, whatever. The art's kind of nice. Guess that's a good thing I can say about Superman number 6, story 1. Welcome back to One Comic Book a Day, where I haven't slept since 3 a.m. Don't ask me why, I'm just up. We are continuing our way through issue 6 of Superman, the second story, The Rule of Gatestown, or Gatiston. I'm not quite sure. So this is a town that's not in Metropolis. It's been taken over by a man named Brute. Brute is a mobster who has come into town. Yeah, it's a mobster story. Is it somewhat better than a mobster story? Arguably, but then no. There's some fun at the end, and there is some sign of a structure, but it's not. It's a mob story. It's a mob Superman story. I don't care. They're not good. Brute is forcing pretty much all the small town businesses to a racket protection ring that he's running and protecting them from him. He's the main problem in town. The main newspaper that's fighting him is the Gazette. So Lois and Clark are sent to go look into it and talk to the Gazette. They arrive, and as soon as they arrive in town, the owner of the Gazette is blown up in a car bomb, and then the printing press explodes. So already, Brute is showing he is quite a force and a threat to be reckoned with. Unlike the rest of the mobsters, this is where I sort of said this was a better mob story. We are taking time to set up the threat that is Brute. We're seeing him kind of be unstoppable in a way, or his own arrogance and how casually he takes life. So we will enjoy the moment when Superman eventually takes him down so much more. We'll savor it. But it's not like it's a lot of what the story is. He's just kind of getting away with a lot. With their publisher and printer down, Clark calls Mr. Mason, the owner of the Daily Planet, in what might be his last ever appearance. He doesn't show up a lot. He's actually kind of like pretty good trivia question of who owns the Daily Planet. It was Mr. Mason to begin with. He happily gives over a printing press to the Gazette. I'm sure another newspaper would totally help another newspaper in that way. I honestly believe it, yes. Clark has to become Superman, you know, Superman, bright blue costume, red cape, to protect the printing press as it's being traveled over. Of course, it gets attacked. They manage to get the printing press in when James, the owner's brother, who has now inherited the Gazette, arrives and throws them out. So, already pretty suspicious about James. Lois and Clark are driving to a big town meeting with Brute. Brute's men try to attack them as they're on their way. But Clark sees them coming and uses his weird Vulcan Nick pinch to knock Lois out. This is its main purpose now, to knock out Lois so he can do Superman things. And he just opens the door and kicks the car across the town. We never find out what happened to that car. He kicks it and it goes airborne. It's going towards buildings and stuff. If it like hit anyone or if those people were killed. Great job on the no killings of our Superman here. We haven't seen any bodies, so I guess they could have survived. Probably pretty injured, though. Kicks the car across town. They arrive to the meeting where Brute is surprised that they made it. He threatens and pushes Clark around, you know the scene. Lois is going to give Clark crap for not, beating up a guy he can totally not take in that situation unless you already know he's Superman. This really goes nowhere. He just kind of threatens them. Eventually, Lois and Clark end up at a factory. Clark uses his cowardice to escape and become Superman again. Lois enters and sees Brute and James working together. They basically tell her off and that they're basically going to kill her because they've already set up her death. But Superman shows up as she gets in her car. Superman knows that her brakes have been bombed. Well, the car is bombed and the brakes will set off the bomb. So he gets her out of the car, goes back up, grabs James and Brute and throw them in the car and starts making them drive. Oh yeah, Superman's gone to the extreme. So we're in a far more dangerous version of Superman's usual way of defeating these guys, threatening them until they confess to their crimes. Here he just puts them in the car and at any time it can explode by hitting the brake, which they know and he knows. So he kind of forces them into that situation. And if they're not going to confess, they're all going to be blown up, but Superman should be fine. Maybe knocked unconscious at this point, but fine. They happily confess, and James and Brute are sent away. The end. And if you felt that ending felt rushed, well, yeah, it was, because we only have like 14 pages. Like, I don't even know where the story went. It had like this, and then rising action just collapsed really quickly, and then we got to a climax. So yeah, not my favorite story. Superman number 6 has been kind of weak so far. I'm really hoping it gets better, because so far it just feels like Siegel is overworked and just been throwing out stories he could get done quickly. Welcome back to One Comic Book a Day, where I walked in dog poop walking my dog this morning. Great day. Today we are continuing our way through Superman number 6 with Mission to San Kaluma. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but it's a made-up country. So Sal Kaluma has had many natural destructions lately and needs relief funds immediately. So the United States is going to help them, or Metropolis, whatever's happening here. George Taylor, editor-in-chief of the Daily Planet, originally Daily Star, still not Perry White, sends Clark Kent to go report on the relief effort in the country of San Kaluma. As soon as Clark arrives, a plane full of relief commission officials is coming in. One of the pilots sabotages the other pilot with a wrench, and the plane is going to crash. So he runs off to his hotel room and changes into Superman. You know, Superman, bright blue costume, red cape, Superman. And he pretty easily catches the airplane. Hey, this is so far not exactly a mob story. Is it a mob story? Well, kinda. But at least it's somewhat different. And hell, I'll take it. This issue also has pretty good art. So let's just say it's a win. Next, the ship with the relief food and funds is coming across the ocean. The engine has broken. It's once again been sabotaged. Superman goes back to his hotel room to change, but as he's changing, a thief sneaks in through the back and holds him up. He doesn't recognize Superman at first, and honestly, if he knows who Superman is, he should recognize the guy in the bright blue costume, red cape. He wants money from Superman, but like, where would he keep it in that costume? There is no pockets, and it's skin tight. He has underwear on the outside. There's like maybe a belt, but even then. Superman decides to kind of go with this and play with him for a bit. The guy eventually gets tired of this and unloads the gun into him. When the bullets bounce off, he realizes that he's been talking to Superman the whole time. When he should be panicking at this point, he decides that this is a boon for him, as he knows who Superman is, because he knows whose hotel room this is. Superman makes a threat, so not into that. Yeah. Superman basically threatens his life. The guy, in panic, finally, decides to run out of the room, screaming he knows who Superman is. Superman changes back into Clark and sort of follows him. When he sees Clark by stairs, he panics so badly that he falls down the stairs and breaks his neck, killing him instantly. I don't know if that counts as Superman murdering somebody, but I do think there's an assistance there. I mean, he didn't want to kill him, but this solves a problem. It's an unfortunate solution to the problem, but it solves the problem. I don't know, this is like a big black cloud in the middle of this comic. It was not a great decision. Clark then goes and pushes the ship back to shore, and the relief effort is now underway. He returns back to Metropolis, and this is where things once again kind of fall apart. It's already been falling apart. Lois happens to go check on the warehouse where they're storing all the relief supplies. Lois has not been in this comic up until this point, and she's basically only in this comic for like this page and like the final panel of the comic. She immediately gets kidnapped because there are guys sabotaging everything and tied up, and the warehouse is set on fire, so she shows up for a page just to be safe. She barely even has any lines. Just a completely useless way to use Lois. I mean, there's been some pretty gratuitous damsel in distressing, but this one takes the cake. Superman saves her, stops the fire, grabs the two guys. They admit they've been working for a guy named Munson who has not come up before, and I don't quite understand who Munson is, but he seems to be kind of rich. I don't think he's a mobster, I think he's a rich guy. When Superman confronts Munson, Munson admits that he's blackmailing San Kaluma to be its ruler. I don't know if he's thought this one through all that much, because even if they agree, they can just, like, kill him afterwards. Like, he doesn't have the military support, doesn't have the people. I don't see how his reign's gonna go very well. Superman's basically going to threaten him to do usually what Superman wants him to do, but he actually has a bomb planted in his house, and he's not going to go away, so he's gonna pull the lever, blowing up the house, killing him and Superman at the same time. So, as dumb as that guy who released gas in the same room as Superman was and killed only himself, the building explodes and You know, for an explosion, and we've seen explosions knock Superman out in previous issues, he just kind of flies out and is fine. I mean, he like rides the explosion. He's in the explosion, but he doesn't get knocked out. He's not even a scratch on him, so what a worthless way to die again. These guys need to come up with better plans. Like, someone should mention that he survived explosions. Is the Daily Planet not, like, accurately reporting on Superman? And that is it from this comic, so it has some, like, wild moments, both good and bad. I know he lets that guy die at the end, but it is pretty fun that that dude just blew himself up to try to kill Superman and did absolutely nothing. But it's definitely a bright spot in this issue, even if it wasn't still a really good issue of Superman. So that's it from Mission to San Cleluma, which for some reason I have to take a pause between each one because the name sounds so fake that I can't quite even say it right. Welcome back to One Comic Book a Day, where my dog ate cat poop this morning. He's really running the gambit this week. As we continue our way through Superman number 6 and the final story, The Construction Racket. The Construction Racket sounds like a title we've seen like 3 or 4 times already. Actually, we probably have. There's been a lot of The Blank Racket as a title in these Superman comics, or action comics, especially if we're fighting mobsters a lot who have rackets. Not that kind of racket, but actual organized crime. Apparently it was on Siegel's mind at the time. I wonder why, living in New York in the 1930s and 40s. A new department store which has just opened collapses, possibly doing a lot of harm to people, but we never get an explanation for that. Clark decides to go interview the head of the construction company, but when he arrives, the man has been murdered, and Clark almost gets blamed for it as the police arrive. But using his microscopic vision, as it is called, he has the X-ray vision, he has microscopic vision. He's able to see that the murderer had 4 fingers. Don't ask me how, he just says it. So we have something to go on. Man, he really is impressive. He's just able to see the most impossible things. After talking to the widow of the head of the construction, he heads with Lois over to the new stadium they're constructing. The foreman talks to them kind of politely at first, but then he won't let them walk around and in fact starts pushing Clark around when he asks questions and tries to see things. Lois asks him if he's going to put up with this, and as she should know by now, he will. And always will. I don't know what she thinks her lambasting is going to accomplish on Clark. He's never going to change and stand up for himself. He doesn't need to. Lois has had enough with him and just leaves. Clark goes to interview Mr. Jackson himself. Mr. Jackson apologizes for the foreman and explains that he can't just have people walking around a construction site. It's an insurance problem. I mean, that's actually pretty believable. I'm kind of on his side, but his guy was still kind of a jerk and was almost causing harm himself. But bigger news. Clark notices that Mr. Jackson has 4 fingers. And by 4 fingers, the art makes it look like this. And I mean actually this, where he's just holding down a finger. Like, the finger hasn't been cut off. It's just down. I don't understand it either. I had a woodshop teacher who had kind of a situation where he had cut off this finger and it was just a nub. Couldn't believe that I had like a cliche woodshop teacher who was missing fingers. Anyway, Clark becomes Superman. You know, Superman, bright blue costume, red cape, Superman. And he goes on the construction site because, like, none of the men can stop him. But the men do try to stop the guy immediately. A lot of shenanigans are had. He almost basically kills 2 guys when he shoots out of a pipe, but he saves them right away. Superman's antics are a little too chaotic for people, apparently. What he does discover is that the stadium is using subpar equipment. Like, the wood breaks immediately. He doesn't even have to use his super strength. Superman goes to see Mr. Jackson, but overhears a conversation on the phone with him and the mayor. They both know they're using cheap equipment, and through that they are pocketing the rest of the money. Mr. Jackson threatens the mayor by telling him he will tell people that he knew everything if the mayor grows a conscience or anything, though he doesn't seem to be growing a conscience at the time. Superman has had enough of this, and he grabs both the mayor and Mr. Jackson and takes them to the opening of the stadium where Lois happens to be. Yeah, the stadium was open. Some time has passed. Superman ties them up and sets them in what looks to be kind of the announcer booth. Not sure why no one finds them. And as he does that, the stadium starts collapsing, so Superman has to quickly save people. And this is where we get to how this comic is almost my ideal Superman story. Yeah, it's not as fun or funny, but it has one moment, one really good moment that it kind of screws up. There's a part where the stadium is about to collapse on Lois and a group of children at the same time. So Superman has to decide over Lois or a group of children. Lois then yells that he should save the children. He does that, and as that happens, the stadium collapses on Lois. She survives, and he pulls her out of the rubble, quickly taking her to the hospital. Now, I like this decision. We have an impossible situation where he has to make a choice. It's kind of like in the original Superman, but he doesn't know in the Donner film is dying at the time he's saving the dam from breaking. But my preferred Superman idea is that though it's impossible, he will succeed in saving both of them because he is Superman, which does happen in the Donner movie. He has to reverse the planet to go back in time to save Lois, but he does save everyone. And I guess Lois doesn't die, but he doesn't quite save her, though there will be a chance for him to do that a little later. After Lois is safe in the hospital, he grabs Jackson and the mayor and completely just tired of their crap. After nearly killing a bunch of people, he flies up, or jumps up, it's very unclear if he's flying yet, to a passing airplane and sets both Jackson and the mayor on the wheels of the airplane, which are for some reason out and not retracted, letting them sit there until they confess. And usually his weird, nearly killing people confession methods annoy me, but right here it's actually kind of fun because it feels like he is definitely in complete control and nothing bad's going to happen to these two guys. And eventually, after a few minutes of a conversation, they do confess. Leaving one more thing, Lois is not doing well, or not doing great, so he has to rush to her hospital room and she needs a blood transfusion. So, as Clark, I need to bring up, it is Clark, he tears his flesh so they can take his blood. His blood, as the doctor mentions, is able to transfer to all blood types. That's really suspicious and something someone should look into, especially if he's saying this out loud towards Lois, but she is knocked out. So he is a medical marvel. He has magic blood. Orson Kurtzman would love this. And his blood does heal Lois, and she mentions he's stronger than ever. She does mention she feels stronger than she's ever felt, though she doesn't gain superpowers, which feels like a much more interesting concept for a story. You get Superman's blood, you have Superman's powers temporarily. And I guess the mayor is now gone, so Superman has successfully taken down a corrupt mayor. Like I said, yeah, we're nearly there to what I want from a Superman story, and that is saving people. And doing it in an impossible situation, but always succeeding. It was the succeeding part that they kind of failed on. Okay, so that's finally over for Superman number 6. The story was The Construction Racket. Even though there wasn't really much of a racket in this, no mobsters involved exactly. It's just a corrupt head of a construction company. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Hit the bell icon to get notifications when a new video goes up. I do this Monday through Friday, but Fridays is now Bat Friday, where I cover a Batman Detective Comics story or a Batman comic. And until next time, let us ponder the question, whatever did happen to the Man of Tomorrow? Also, how is this 4 fingers? He still has one of the fingers. Bye!